Hey all, I'm John Avlon. Welcome to How to Fix It. Before we get to our interview this week with someone focused on solutions, not just problems, I want to talk about something that's ripped from the headlines that's firing me up and should get everybody's attention. The U.S. of A is now aligned with Vladimir Putin. Trump has made what is, to me and to many, is an entirely predictable pivot to Vladimir Putin, not only on Ukraine, but opening up the prospect of a wider alliance. Now, if you believe, as I do, that the defining struggle of our time is democracy versus autocracy, the United States of America is aligning itself with an autocracy. It is aligning itself with an invader. And this is exactly the opposite of the bipartisan national security consensus since the Second World War. It's a rejection of the world that the United States made to strengthen democracies and to learn the lessons of World War I and World War II. It's not just an abandonment of our highest ideals, it's an insult to American tradition. And make no mistake, the American people are not on board with Trump's unilateral decision to change American foreign policy. A decision which itself flies in the face of the long-held belief of even his own Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who, of course, is going along. Now, there are senators who are standing up and calling out, but those same senators are people who voted to advance the nominations and confirmations of Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., and now Kash Patel as FBI director. The decision to move American foreign policy in this direction for this administration is an abandonment and it's a betrayal. It's got nothing to do with the price of eggs, or the affordability crisis that made some folks think that Donald Trump stood for something other than what he has and what he is. Someone who's never said a bad word about Vladimir Putin, but who is now, in fact, parroting Russian propaganda about Ukraine. The United States is even refusing to sign on to a declaration describing Russia as the aggressor in the war they started when they invaded Ukraine. Think about that. That's a rejection of fact. That's Orwellian doublespeak. That is not what America stands for or who we are. But it is who this president is. It is what this administration is undertaking. And that's a clear and present danger. Now, what can we do about it? First of all, we need to keep our moral compass right. We need to recognize that this does not represent the views of the vast majority of the American people. It doesn't represent America's values, which are rooted in a belief in freedom and democracy at home and abroad. There'll be all sorts of realpolitik rationalizations by some folks, but the National Review is pushing back, even though this was entirely predictable. So is the Wall Street Journal editorial page and the New York Post with a front page story today. It's good to see people put country over party, but it can't be a la carte. That's the problem. This matters to all of us. It matters to the world which our kids will inherit and that we are briefly responsible for. It cannot be allowed to be simply accepted. It's a rejection of our highest ideals. It's a rejection of considered national security policy rooted in deep principles about who we are and what we stand for. So now's not the time to put your head in the sand. Now's not the time to throw up your hands. History is written not just by the winners, but by people who strengthen their civic backbone in times of crisis. So look for that North Star. Focus on that North Star. We need to continue building the broadest possible coalition to defend democracy. This is going to be a tough time. People already know that. But let's stay focused as we can on solutions and understanding that underneath this capitulation, this sort of code pink conservatives and pivot to Putin, think about energy policy. Think about the prospects for combating climate change, but how America needs to be independent and not feed these petro-oligarchs, among whom is Vladimir Putin. And that brings me to our conversation today. It's a conversation with Rachel Pritzker, who's written an excellent essay in a book called The Center Must Hold about a centrist vision for global energy policy and how leaning into technology might help us find some common ground even among our divisions at home and even help combat the climate crisis, which has been entirely sidelined by the Trump administration. Let's get after it.